Hello. Today, but today I want to talk about the occult, and I would like to cover stories that are circulating around and that have been around for some years, as far as I know, in the ex-Jehovah's Witness community about Watchtower being involved in the occult, about the founder being a Freemason, and there are many pieces of information that point to that likelihood. 6 viewers, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. I have a lot of stories circulating and about various things to do with the Watchtower cult. There are people that are in the community that claim they have been used, in occult practices secretly within the organization. I a handful of women throughout the years that have claimed various things. I've spoke to someone named Raven, I believe Guiliani, and she had a lot of fascinating things to tell me. And she, from what I remember, she stated that she was used in occult practices as a child, and she was taken underground into the underground tunnels that are underneath Watchtower building in New York. And then yesterday, screens, and I usually don't go on 6 screens. It's too sensationalism. It's too much sensationalism for me, and it has a heavily religious bias to the point where the information comes distorted. I usually don't go on there at all, but I really wanted to talk to this person to find out what she had to say. I'm naturally skeptical about occult things and occult topics. I think that 98% of it is complete BS, but I do think there's a 2%, a very small percent, that has something to it. And that's the way I look at UFO things, paranormal, magic, occult, anything like that. I think there's a large margin of error, and it draws people that might not have any attention otherwise, because the occult, it's the unknown. It's scary, but also mysterious, and a lot of people want to know about it, but they're afraid of it. So anytime you have someone going around and saying, hey, I was involved in channeling, or I was involved in magic occult rituals with the Watchtower, you're going to have some attention. You're going to have people wanting to talk to you. Okay. So I think there's a few of those kinds of folks out there that will take that subject and might not necessarily know much about it, but if someone is wanting to believe, really wants to believe something, you're not going to have any trouble convincing them of that. And I'll give you an example. Many years ago, many moons ago, back in the 90s, I don't know if any of you remember Miss Cleo, the psychic line. Miss Cleo. Remember she had she was sitting on a table. The commercial was her sitting on this table with tarot cards, and she had reader psychic garb. She had the wrap on her head, and she had this thing, call me now, call Miss Cleo, call me now. I don't know if you remember that, but I actually worked for that psychic line. Very short period of time. Okay. So let me check into the live chat. Whoa, we've got a whole chat room full. Sarah Pettigrew. Hey, Hornet Boo. Hornet Boo, we talking about this crazy stuff, Boo. I don't want to talk about the occult. I want to talk about it, though. I want to talk about the occult. I think it's all evil. They're all evil. They're all demonized occult. That's all evil. Tarot cards and crystal balls. Crystal balls are evil? Yeah, they're evil. It's just glass. The worst thing that can happen when you look at a crystal ball is your own reflection. So if you're afraid of that and you think that's evil, might be some time to go to a counselor. All right, something found. Ooh, something right up my alley. Joey Gonzalez. Hey, Honey Boo! Happy holidays. Joey Gonzalez. Hey, I want to say before we go on, I want to give a shout out to Joey Gonzalez and his family. They're newly out, and I know that there's a lot of hardship with that, but Joey and his sister and his mom and dad and his family, they are doing really, really good. I'm so proud of you, Joey, for all of the hard work you're doing. You're a fine young man. You've got a lot of great things going for you, your sister as well, and your parents. I love all of you. That's one of my family there. That's I'm really they're really dear and near to my heart there. So I just wanted to give a shout out. We have My Mango Bango. I heard Raven's story too, the whole 4 hours. I think her story cannot be fudged, man. Down with the tower. My Mango, why aren't you crashing a Kingdom Hall today? Man, who is My Mango Bango? Are you a cart crasher, Kingdom Hall crasher? I need to check your channel out then. All right, we have SWA USA, call me now. That's right. You remember Miss Cleo, right? Something found. Yep, Miss Cleo, call me now for your free reading. Yes, yes. King of Fader says, I'm choosing to be willfully ignorant when it comes to any of that stuff. Well, and that's okay too, you know. It's not for everyone. Evie Brooklyn says, Miss Cleo never answered, and Mop Floyd is in the house. Hey, Mop Floyd, and Linda Lawton. Linda Lawton says, so many unknowns in the world. The more I travel, and I try to keep an open mind. Sarah Pettigrew says, jw.org tarot cards. Ew! Well, I tell you, that's a nice Christmas gift idea to send to your local body of elders. Send them the one with the tower crashing. Who's that, number 15? Hey, Mop Floyd. Welcome to the show, everyone. All right, so we got 16 viewers right now. Thank you for tuning in. All of my viewers now and in the future. All right, so let me tell you, continue telling you about my experience with the Miss Cleo Psychic chat line. So I needed some money, and at the time I had a little, down. It was a little slow in getting a job, right? I was filling out applications and all that. So I was on this job site and I saw this work at home ad, and I usually skip over them because most of them are scams, but this one seemed a legitimate work at home, working for a psychic line. And at the time, okay, at the time, the pay was pretty good. I think the start, and this was many years ago, the start was $15 an hour, and depending on how long you could keep the people on the phone, all the way up to $30 an hour. And remember, people were paying $3.99 and $4.99 a minute. So the name of the game was to keep them on the phone as much and as long as possible. Anyway, I applied for that job because it was you could work at home. You just needed your own dedicated phone line. You couldn't have caller ID. on the phone. You couldn't have any of those features. It just had to be a straight phone line. And you could choose what shift you wanted to work. First shift, second shift, third shift. You had to keep a call minute quota, a call average. So if your average went below a certain level, they wouldn't send you any more calls. So you can imagine what kind of psychic call that is going to be. So when I filled out the application, no one ever called me to interview me. No one ever tested me on any psychic abilities. It was a script, like a 3-paragraph script to kind of work with. And I was told that when people call and if they ask for Miss Cleo, just tell them Miss Cleo is on another call and that you can help them. So the company was called Buckwoods Communication. That's where my checks came from Las Vegas, Nevada. And the company that was actually doing the psychic line, at least the folks that were paying me, were called Buckwood out of Las Vegas, Nevada. All right, so I got my phone line, I got my headset, and I got on board with them. And the calls started coming, and I started. My first shift was I logged in with my PIN number to get the calls. I think around 10 o'clock at night, and I stayed on that night for 2 or 3 hours. And the first call, which was going to be my predominant type of calls. The very first call was from I forget what her name was, but she called me and she wanted me to do a psychic reading on her boyfriend to see if he's cheating. And she told me that he was in jail. And he's been in jail for a long time. So that was my first call. But most of the calls I had were my first call was most of my calls were from women that were from lower socioeconomic level. Okay. Quite a few of them were on government assistance. You'll be surprised what people tell you too on these psychic lines. They just lay their whole life there. And a lot of times their man, their husband, or their boyfriend was in jail. So I had a lot of people from the hood calling me that really couldn't afford $3.99 and $4.99 a minute, and those were the ones that would stay on there with me forever. I had one guy call me. This guy was a complete jerk, nasty pervert, I think, because he wanted me to do a psychic reading. He wanted me to do a psychic reading on his sister-in-law if she was attracted to him. And I didn't give a rat's you-know-what about this person. I thought, what a disgusting pig. You want a psychic reading to know if your sister-in-law wants you? So I said, okay, I'm going to keep you on this phone for 3 hours. So I told him what he wanted to hear. And after he was done with the first sister-in-law, he wanted me to do another psychic reading on another sister-in-law and wanted to know if she wanted him. So he had me do all these readings on women. And, not every woman was going to like him, right? I was going to make it interesting, because if I said, yeah, she wants you too, after a while, he'd be like, just tell me what I want to know. So, one of them I had to kind of make it seem like she, really didn't like him. And, of course, then he really wanted to know more. And I kept him on for 2.5 hours. They actually cut me off the psychic line. I guess there was a law that had passed where the calls couldn't stay connected longer than 2.5 hours. The person would have to redial and call back if they wanted to continue, because kids were calling into the psychic line and they were their parents' cell phone bills. So yeah, that kind of put a bummer on me because I just knew this guy was going to stay on all night and I was going to make a big fat check off of his ignorance. But needless to say, I ran away from that psychic line job because after a while, I started to actually, when I was using the tarot cards, and some of the calls I really felt sad for. One lady called me and she said she had been raped. She called me, it was like 3 in the morning, and she called into the line, and the call was forwarded to me. And she told me that she had been raped. There was going to be a court case, and she wanted me to do a reading to tell her how the case was going to turn out. And that was the last straw for me. That call, I knew that people were really hurting here, and this was not to be toyed with, and this was not to be exploited. And when I did her reading, I actually saw things and was giving her details that freaked us both out. And that was the last time. That was the last call I took. Like I said, it was 2 or 3 weeks that I worked that psychic line. And I tell you, I had the worst headaches getting off of that because you have to constantly talk and talk and talk. And I kept a big container of ibuprofen on my desk. But these people that called into the psychic line, they were not hard to convince. You just had to figure out what they wanted to hear. And they already, excuse me, they already wanted to believe that I had special psychic powers. They already wanted to believe that. So it wasn't very difficult for me to do the psychic readings on them. Some people would call and they were angry. You know, this one lady, she was angry at her man. I forget it, Demetrius or somebody. And she was pissed. So I knew that what she wanted to hear was probably going to be different than the other one that called and wanted to know if her man was cheating, and she was already half crying. So, you know, different kind of rating for these people. But at the end, I realized this is not to be toyed with, and I am no longer going to do this for money. And at the time, I put the tarot cards away because I was able to start seeing things. And, you know, to me, it was, at the time, I didn't understand it like I do now. But it did freak me out. It was, there was something there that I was using, and I needed to make sure that I didn't abuse it. So I put that away, but that's my story with the psychic line. People that called in, they really, really wanted to believe anyway. There was a couple of calls where people were skeptic, you know, and those calls usually came during the day. The day shift, I never had good calls. People were much more skeptical. Starting from like 10 p.m. all the way to maybe 5 a.m., that's when you had the believers, the true believers. And also some loony people. I had somebody call me, and they wanted me to do a reading on their. It was an adult, it wasn't a kid. I don't, you know, at first I didn't know if they were messing with me, but I was like, heck, I'll just play along. I'm getting paid. I don't care. But I think the person might have had some mental health issues. I don't know, or maybe they were just bored. But nonetheless, when you're talking about the occult, realize that there are people that want to believe. They want to believe very, very badly. And it's not hard to convince them of things because they're already wanting to believe it. Okay? That's different from being open minded. Wanting to believe and being open minded towards something are two different things. Okay? All right. So we've got 16 viewers. We're talking about the Watchtower and the occult. And the ties to the Watchtower in the occult. Now, this is a big umbrella topic. Okay, so let's go into the live chat and let's see what people are saying right now here. All right. We've got Sarah Pettigrew. It's dangerous to your mental health. You can't come in at level 4. The sciences need to be learned from the beginning. Nigel Rowley says, is Bob a psychic? No, Nigel, I wouldn't say I'm psychic. I've worked for a psychic line, and I've just explained that thing there. But I wouldn't call myself a psychic. Mark Floyd says lottery numbers now, Bob. If I was able to do that, I would be rich. And I think that's a fake. Any psychic that wants to tell you that, that's fake. Okay. So let's see who else is in here. Let me see. There was someone else. Okay, let me see. Who else was in there? Evie Brooklyn says paid by the minute. Jessica Gonzalez. Hey, honey boo! Something found says, Bob, you're going to tell us what name you went by. Mott Floyd, how about downtown Julie Brown with the Bermuda Triangle? Oh my goodness! I forgot about downtown Julie Brown. Is she still around? All right, the name, I didn't go by any names, but I had different voices and personalities that I used to talk to you. And I could do a reading on you right now if you want me to. All right. All right. So, yeah. All right. So, first things first, the Watchtower itself, we have a lot of different little things that are similar to the Masonic and occult symbolism. All right. And terms. All right. Such as Watchtower. And these things do point to connections to masonry, right? You have Russell with his Masonic pyramid grave, and all of his original books and works were highly occult laden, were stuffed with some occult symbolism. Okay, now Russell and his ideology is not the same exact thing as what Jehovah's Witnesses are today. They are two different things. I know that JW.org and Watchtower Society wants to tie itself to Russell being their founder, but Charles Taze Russell specifically stated that there be no more books published beyond his own books. And of course, we don't even have any of his books. I've never seen, well, I did see his books when I got older, but that's because I had already left and, I was looking and researching. But I had never even seen the founder, what he had to say, or any of his original writings at all in my time in the Jehovah's Witnesses. So, and I didn't know anybody else that did too. We were only allowed to have what's current. And maybe the elders had that in their libraries, but the rank and file, everyone else, they didn't have any of that access. So there's that. Number one, whether Charles Taze Russell was an occultist or a Freemason or not, his ideology is not what is practiced with Jehovah's Witnesses today. Now, for one thing, he didn't believe that people were going to be destroyed at Armageddon. He believed that everyone eventually would be saved. Okay, and that's a big, huge difference from what is believed today. But I tend to think that perhaps Charles Taze Russell was involved in some kind of masonry, or perhaps attempted to mimic the masonry, or attempted to pull from the Masonry and harness whatever he thought he could, whatever benefits he thought he could get. I'm not sure that they let him into the boys' club as far as the Masons are concerned. However, I tend to think that he tried if he wasn't a Mason, that he tried to get at the Masons, or at least emulate them in some kind of way. I do see that and believe that. Okay, so you have that there. But occultism, the occult, is really, really deeply intertwined in all major religious faiths. All major religious faiths. You also can see it in politics and in education and educational institutions. When people talk about the occult, a lot of times, if they're not really educated about actual occult stuff, they will blanket the whole thing and say all of it's evil. Magic is evil, channeling is evil, all of this stuff, it's all evil, it's all from bad, from Satan. And these people are usually highly religious and fundamentalist, and they're easily manipulated. They already believe it's all evil, so instantly you have access to harness all kinds of things on, because they're already their imaginations are already populating demons, and Satan, and babies being eaten, and candles made out of baby's blood, and all kinds of crazy Hollywood theatrics. Okay. So today I'd like to sell some of this here. If you go to the dictionary and you Google the word occult, you're going to have surprises if you haven't already, because the dictionary is not going to tell you that it means evil. It means hidden, occult. In medicine, they have something called occult pulmonary infiltrates. And that doesn't mean that the pulmonary infiltrates are evil. They make you sick. They can make you sick. They can make life hard, sure. But they're not evil. They're not little devils down there in your lungs. Okay. The doctor says occult pulmonary infiltrates. And they're not easily spotted. Occult information is the same way. But today, I don't think you can really call it occult because it's hidden in plain sight. You just Google, you can go to the bookstore, go to the library, and check out real occult books. Check them out and actually study it. But a lot of people are not going to do that because they've already written it off anyway. And of course, some people, might have had negative experiences with practice that, it's all in how you use it. It's like electricity. You can do good things for people. You can warm the home. You can cook a nice meal. You can turn on the lights. You can turn on the TV and have entertainment from it. There's all kinds of things you can do with electricity. You can also cook a person. You kill people with electricity. And I will venture to say that this is the same thing. And number two, the occult is intertwined in just about every major religion. So if you're saying, oh, it's all evil, well, you might need to dig into your religion, especially if you're from the Christian sector. You talk about occult within the Christian sector. The cross that Christians use, it didn't come from Christians. They borrowed it from the occult. Yes. Yeah. And you can Google that. I don't have a lot of time today, but if you want to look up some more information, I have Donald Michael Kraig's Modern Magick. Now, this is a good book here to study. You don't have, if you're not interested in becoming an occultist, it is still a good reference book to read and study exactly what true occultism is. Okay, you're not going to be able to summon a horde of demons with some kind of spell. Okay, and you're not going to be able to and have sacks of money fall out of the sky. It ain't going to happen. All right, that's Hollywood. Let go of the Hollywood crap. Real practice is hard work. You're going to need a lot of common sense. You're going to have to do all the work that you would be doing if you were just doing it in the regular way. And then some. Okay? It's work. You can't be lazy. And it takes time. It takes time. And most of all, it takes courage, because you're going to see things about yourself that you might not be ready to see and experience. So it takes a lot of courage to do this. But, you know, we have people that are going around saying that they are, that they have been involved in these things. And I'm very about people. When I hear someone saying that, I am curious to talk to them. I want to know what they have to say. But so far, with the exception of maybe Raven, I'm still out on her. I still don't. I'm ambiguous about some of the information she's given me. She's given me some things where it's clear the person knows official occult thing, but she is an occultist. She practices it, and she's been doing it for years. So that information when she was an adult, you know, I really don't know if she was indeed on the tunnels or not, but has some thing there with her. But the person I spoke with yesterday, Veronica, I think of Veronica Houston, on 6 screens with Rick Veron. You know, when I go on 6 screens, and that's not very often. I think I've been there a total of 3 times, and out of all the years I've known about them, and I'm never able to stay very long. I just can't take it. I can't take it. The sensationalism and scriptures as proof and verification of your story of being a channeler for the Jehovah's Witnesses. I just I know that the people on that channel do, and they readily and willingly accept that, but I just can't accept that as proof. And when you tell me that you don't want me to talk and you want to change the subject the minute I start coming up, this is like Modern Magick and some of these other books I'm going to talk about, then that lets me know that there might be something not kosher there with your story. And you know, I'm not going to push you. I'm not going to push anybody. I'm not going to confront anybody. I think this Veronica lady, she's a sweet lady. I think she's a nice lady, but I'm just not convinced telling the whole truth on her story. She does have a show every week to run, and you know, she needs content and she needs viewers. And it looks like she might be taking over the 6 screens. I don't know. I called in yesterday, and that guy Rick, he spazzed out and started saying he wants to quit the show and he wants to give it up and give it to someone else. And you know, he was upset. And called in on time. She was supposed to start at 11. And when I called in, there was some other guy, and he just was going on and on and on and on and on and on about in subliminal images and how the art department is checking all of the art, and they're meticulously putting these demons into the art of the literature and all that. And so when asked, I said, literally, I said, hi, I'm really interested in them. Can you give me some verification? Immediately, the guy got defensive. He's, verification of what? And I said, well, of the art department there with the demons, you say that they have actual demon bodies that they make sure that are inserted to the literature. Do you have any kind of a verification? And he wouldn't even let me finish talking. He started calling me a name. I don't know what he called idiot, something like that. And he started getting personal, and I noticed he was trying to distract conversation into, a drama, where somebody else would have said, who are you to call me that? And then it would have went back and forth, and the verification would have been forgotten, you see. So anyway, I don't back down. I ask you for verification, you're calling me names. He's just screaming, having a meltdown all of a sudden because I asked him to verify. And he tells Rick, the owner of the show there, either you get him off the phone, I leave. And I go, wow, is this a man toddler? His name was, he wouldn't even tell me his name. And I was like, yeah, no. He's talking about his bull too, because I get happy when people ask me for references. And if you know me personally, you know I'm happy. I'm like, oh, you want references? You ready for a whole book of references? I got lots of books. I can tell you about some references. I'm happy when people say, can you verify that? I sure can. How many books you want? You want 200? How much time you got? Let's sit down and talk. You're going to have scrolls and scrolls of paragraphs scrolling down your private message with all kinds of links and books. Your eyes will freaking glaze over. So whenever I experience someone being defensive when I ask for verification, I tend to think that that person is probably not very forthcoming. And I dismiss their info. I just dismiss them. I can't do anything with it. It's just taking somebody at face value, and I can no longer afford to do that. The last time I did that, it cost me money, the client, and when I did that with some folks in the XW community, it was something I regretted. Let's look at the live chat. We've got Linda Lawton, 411 Big Boss, Evie Brooklyn, Something Found, King of Faders, Mock Floyd, Existential Transhumanist. About? Good question. Stick around and you'll find out. 411 Big Boss says, transhumanist, this channel is about the glory of Jehovah God. Yes, honey, Jehovah, 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 Jehovah. 411 Big Boss says, I heard Bruce Jenner had demons. Yeah, isn't that why he had a sex change? See what those demons do to people? King of Faders says body thetans. So the body thetans caused Bruce Jenner to have a sex change? That's pretty interesting. Linda Lawton says, it was a crazy 6 screens last night. Isn't it every night? I think some of those people there, you know what? I'm going to be honest. I think quite a few of those people there could benefit from mental health counseling. I know they probably don't believe in that there, and I think that mental health counseling is probably something that people could benefit from in general, but especially over there on 6 screens. I mean, when that guy, I call him Man Toddler. I don't know what his name is, but when Man Toddler just melted down on me because I asked for verification. Look, I want to believe about the subliminal picture thing there. I've seen some of that stuff, and while I can't say that all of it, I can't really look at all of it and say, no, I don't really see that. But some of those images are clearly inserted in there. I'm not going to say all of it, but there are a couple of things that I saw that made me stop. You know, so it's not like I'm completely against the idea of Watchtower using subliminal art to mess with people's heads. Um, I don't have anything, I have not come across anything verifiable, 100% concrete. You know, I have a letter where Watchtower is hiding murderer, you know, someone who's a multiple murderer, and they're hiding and they're giving directive telling the congregation to keep that quiet and to not go to law enforcement. I have that, and I can give you proof of that. So when you come to me and tell me the art department's putting demon bodies into the artwork, and you know you're setting yourself up as someone who's an expert in that, or someone who I guess you know has credibility in that, um, you can't have a meltdown when someone asks you for verification. You know somewhere down the line that isn't balanced, and I think that's the predominant attitude on six screens is you know, you better not ask questions unless you're ready to agree. You know, then you can ask questions because you're already wanting to believe and agree anyway. So it's okay if you ask questions. But if you're not as willing to believe and agree, then your questions are met with defensive posturing. And Veronica got slightly defensive with me yesterday when she said that channeling is the same as magic, and no, it is not. Channeling is not the same as magic rituals. She said channeling was the same as magic rituals, and I said no, magic rituals are not the same as channeling. Although people who practice magic rituals, who practice the occult, can and sometimes do channel, okay, depending on their selection of it, but those two things are not the same thing. And she said, well, we'll just have to agree to disagree. And I go, actually, I have some references here. I have some occult, bona fide occult books on magic. And on page 78 in Modern Magic, and that's when she wanted to change the subject. I'm opening it up now. She wanted to change the subject and invited, she said that she wants to change the subject, and then she invited other people to talk and ask questions, and she was pretty much done with me. And I wasn't going to push her. You know, I had enough already to know that I'm not going to waste my time listening to anymore. You know, but I did notice that she steered the my questions way off in the left field too. You know, when I asked her for specific, can you remember specific patterns? How exactly were you channeling? You know, what was the step? Was it at your home, or was it in Bethel? And she couldn't really give me any clear answers to that. You know, she said, well, sometimes it was at Bethel and they would come get us. And my mom and dad, they tried to protect me, but they would hypnotize them too. And one day they just fell to the ground. And I was, you know, she just went into a whole other direction. And when I would try to pull her back to my original question, it was very, very difficult because she was just, and I would say, excuse me, Veronica, I want to hear what you have to say there. But going back to my question, how specifically, you know, did they sit you in a chair? Did they put something on a table? I was looking for more than just blanket word salads. Don't get me wrong, I love salad and I love words. I love words and I love salads, but if you toss word salads at me, I'm gonna get bored with you, and I'm not gonna believe a thing you say because I gotta have a little bit more than just some word salads. Okay. Let's see. Mount Floyd in the live chat says, I draw the line at being struck with a damp watchtower. Ew. Nigel Rowley says images of JW smiling while leaving a city that's being destroyed by Jehovah's more screwed up than any subliminal imagery. Nigel, that's a really good point. I don't know if that subliminal art is even all that effective. You know, I mean, they put subliminal art in advertisements too, but the effectiveness of it has really not been established concretely. You know, I think it has an effect, but people's minds are very complex, and not everyone is going to react the same way. That's why there isn't a total mind controlled. The whole world isn't completely mind controlled under one specific thing, right? Because everybody reacts a little bit differently. Something found says the Egyptology stuff too, Bob. The early founders were obsessed with the mysteries of Egypt. Yes, and coming from my researches and what I know, my experiences, the Egyptian rituals are actually they're ripped off. They have been some of the most ripped off. I have the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and I have all of those rituals there that I have studied, and I still go through them on a regular basis. I actually use them for different things in my own life. But the Egyptian rituals have a certain psychological pattern off by so many religions, including Christianity. The Catholic Mass has a lot of the same patterns. I mean, when you look at the Egyptian rituals in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and you look at some of these Christian, um, they call them services, but they're really rituals because the action is repetitive and routine, and it is specific with a purpose. So it is a ritual. They are a carbon copy of these rituals in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and also in the other book, in the Tibetan, not Tibetan book, the Egyptian Book of the Dead. But also, you can see correspondences in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. You can see correspondences in all kinds of organizations. So, a lot of these people that are bad mouthing the occult have no idea that they are actually practicing the occult. And they're not calling it that, but that's where it is. That's where it's from. All right. So let's see what else do we have here in the live chat. Johnny the Bethlite will be on Leah Remini. Ew. Please no. I don't think that person's real. I think that's a fake. That Johnny Bethlite thing. Believe that. My Mango Bango says, who is Veronica? Okay, Veronica is a person that I saw in one of the forums that posted about that she was a channeler for Watchtower, and that she started the Smurf lore and all of that. So she has a show every Saturday at 11 p.m. Eastern time on 6 screens of the Watchtower talking about this. And you know, she just gave me a lot of vague stuff. She didn't give me anything concrete. And, you know, she felt like reading Bible scriptures to me would be proof. But unfortunately, Bible scriptures does not count as proof to me. Okay. So I guess they thought that that was not cool or acceptable for me not to accept the Bible scripture quotes and the Bible readings as proof for her story. But I just can't accept that. Okay. All right, so Evie Brooklyn says, Bob, she needed to change the channel. 411 says, channeling is magic, and I will challenge you on that, Bob. All right, so let me go ahead and get my stuff out here. Let me see. Oh, here we go. 307. Okay. Let me see. All right, let's go to page 307. All right. Okay, here we go. All right. Channeling is called, okay, this is page 307 in Modern Magick. 12 Lessons in the High Magical Arts by Donald Michael Kraig, K-R-A-I-G, okay? All right, and this is in part invocation and evocation. The difference between invocation and evocation is, one, you call the energy into yourself, invoking, and the other, you evoke it, you call the energy to outside of yourself. All right. One is in, one is out, right? Okay. Why have that difference? The difference is that some occultists will call that energy into themselves. Usually it's women and witches, okay? And magicians, or the men, and of course there's always exceptions to that, okay? Not all magicians are men, but usually magicians are, a large number of them are male, and they evoke. They do not call this into themselves. They deal with it outside of themselves, okay? Now, invocation and evocation is a type of practice. It is not magic. You don't do magic, you are magic. Okay? Magic is not something you do. Yes, you have rituals. Yes, you have spells, or, you study and prepare. Even studying and reading and preparing is part of your ritual. Even before you actually start doing a ritual or a channeling session, that is part of your magical routine. But it is not magic. You are magic. You cannot do magic. You are magic. Channeling is a technique for a specific purpose, but it is not the same as a magic ritual, which is what she was saying. She was saying that channeling is the same as a magic ritual, and it is not. And what she was explaining, how she was allegedly channeled or channeling, that certainly was not a magic ritual, because she could not tell me any patterns. There was no pattern. There was no. Let me tell you something. When you practice magic rituals, they have to be very precise. It is a lot of work, and there is a pattern. I'm not going to tell anybody what the pattern is, but if you are someone who practices that, you know that there is a running pattern throughout all of the magical rituals and techniques, whether you're talking about somebody in Freemasonry or in the Golden Dawn, or just a solo person, or someone who's doing black magic to try and take over the world. Whatever the case is, all of these methods all have the same fundamental running pattern. And if you aren't privy to that, you're not going to know it. It's just like those people that pretend to be ex-Jehovah's Witness, right? And they played the game. They knew the words, and they fit in until we found out they didn't know about 607 BCE, and they don't know about the Convention Danishes, and they had never even heard of certain other things. And then you realize, oh, this person was a pretender. They had the superficial, and they could mimic, and for a minute they got people to think they were part of the group. But then you find, how could you not know about 607? How could you not know about 1914? Huh? No, hold up now. Wait a minute. You see? And this is the same thing. I was looking for certain things that she didn't want to give me. And it wasn't because of memory either. Okay, memory was not the issue. So let me see here. It says here, in your readings, you may have noticed that there are some authors who use invocation as a synonym for evocation. This error is never made by real magicians, and is only presented by writers who either have no practical magical experience, or by those who wish to blur the distinction of different types of magical practices. Okay, there it is right here. Page 307, Lesson 9, Modern Magic by Donald Michael Kraig. They are not the same thing. A magical ritual, okay? And actually, in the occult, we call that invocation, depending on the method. So not only could she couldn't the book and the info, and you know, but I will say that there are other people that will agree with you on that, that it's the same thing. And, you know, I'll just have to leave it at that. I mean, I know in my experience it's not, but, you know, and of course, you know, from all the references here, but, you know, there are people, like you said, there are people that um, call it all the same thing. So there you go. But even at that, I'll let her have that, okay? Okay, let's say channeling and magic rituals, they're all the same. I still didn't get no 607 BCE from her. You get it? She still couldn't tell me about no convention Danishes. And I'm using this as a metaphor, okay? I wasn't looking for convention Danishes, but she couldn't tell me those things. And she claimed that she uses the Masonic tarot cards. And when I asked her a little bit about how she uses them, once again, you know, vague, she said, you know, she just pretty much with, well, I don't like to use them that much because they scare me, and I start seeing things I don't want to see. And she said that they were demonized and from the devil, and I'm thinking, why would you have them? Why are you using them? So then I said, it's just ink on paper. That's all tarot cards are. I mean, if you're thinking that there's demons, that you know you're getting demons from them, you know, maybe it's time to go seek some mental health, because this is just paper and ink, and that's what it is. Is cereal soup, Bob? Uh, I don't know. I don't think so. King of Fader says a psychic owl told me how many licks to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop. So there. A psychic owl. Oh shoot. Danielle, hey, what's up? Sour Blaze Hayes. Hey. Big Boss, it's a hot dog, a sandwich. Yeah, oh yeah, it is a sandwich. And it's the cereal is a soup too. Because a cookie is a biscuit in the UK and a cigarette is a fag in the UK. So yeah, cereal is a soup, hot dog is a sandwich, and a cookie is a biscuit, and a cigarette is a fag. Danielle A says, I don't think Sarah Lee even makes those Danishes anymore. Yeah, I guess they just fellowshipped her too. Assholes. Sarah Lee too. King of Fader says DirecTV is evil. They take all my money to give me channels. I don't even have a television anymore, King of Faders. I used to though. I used to love cable. 401 Big Boss says at Evie, I'm Henry the Eighth. I am. We have 15 people watching right now, and thank you for tuning in. Okay, so what do you think? What do you guys think about all of that? What do you think about these people coming out? Vaughn, he has a couple of interesting videos on channeling. One person that I tend to lend a little bit more credibility to. I don't think he's ever said that he's been involved in it directly, but he does have some things there that are very interesting. So check out Marcus Vaughn's channel. He has a video talking about channeling at the headquarters. Let me see if I can pull it up. Let me see. Marcus Vaughn. Yeah, I can't find him right now. But Google Marcus Vaughn, and I think he has, let me see, channeling Bethel. Let's see if you could type that keyword in. Channeling Bethel. Yeah. In the YouTube search to find him, put channeling Bethel as your keyword search, and he's going to come right up. Spirit channeling at Bethel, part 1 and part 2. Okay. I lend a little bit more credibility to him because he does some of the things he does say seemed a little bit more reasonable than what I've heard in the past from other folks. So there's something to look up, you know, and it's a fascinating subject. I'm very fascinated with it. See a lot of inaccuracies, and I see a lot of paranoia, and I think that some people like to grab onto this to gain a sense of attention and community around them, you know. Have people that pretend to be handicapped. Sims, former one Big Boss, and we talked about that the other day, where people are joining the XJW community and they're not necessarily XJWs, but they, you know, they mimic enough to fly under the radar, and for whatever reason they just you know, they pretend so they can have some friends, a sense of community. You have people with body dysmorphia that will try to get a doctor to cut their leg off or their arm so they can be handicapped. It's bizarre stuff, but you have that, and there are people that will make themselves handicapped to be able to fit in some kind of way. All right, JW suicides. You guys can speak British. Yeah, if you say fag here in the U.S., it's a very derogatory thing, but in the Europe there, you know, if you say faggot, it means cigarette or even meatball. Someone showed a picture and it was these it said delicious faggot, and it was these meatballs. It was a meatball recipe from the UK, and they called them faggots. Said, "Oh, these faggots look good. I'd like to eat one." So yeah. 411 Big Boss, as level 23 in Magic, I can affirm that all of that stuff you said, Bob, was magic. You mean Magic the Gathering? Well, yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. It is magic, isn't it? I think we're having magic right now on the channel. King of Faders says, I need a channeler to explain what makes beards demonic, but only in certain parts of the world. You know, that's a really, really good topic. Why are the beards demonic in certain parts of the world, but not in others? You know? Okay, let me see. JW Crisis, what's going on? How you doing, buddy? Thanks for tuning in. JW Crisis says, I know a girl channeling. She knew all the GB members. Okay, okay, and is she out in the community? What did she tell you other than she was channeling? And that's an interesting story there. I'm always very curious about it. You know, I'm skeptical, but I'm also very curious. Nigel Rowley says a period is a full stop in the UK. Oh, okay. Evie Brooklyn, he's a magic man, mama. He's got the magic hands. Oh, that heart song is it. I love that song, Magic Man. Is he on YouTube? Man, that is a classic, right? JW Crisis says, Merry Christmas, got to go back to work. All right, JW Crisis, thanks for stopping in. Appreciate your time and support. Okay, honey boo. Oh, and by the way, I want to mention JW Crisis. Crisis has postcards that he can send out to elders and Jehovah's Witnesses. So if you want to clue people in and get them aware, but you might not want to directly, maybe you can't really directly talk to them, hit up JW Crisis, and he will hook you up with some really, really great postcards, Royal Commission on it. I think he might have some other themes on some other postcards, but hit up JW Crisis here on YouTube if you're interested in that. I'll get those postcards mailed out for you. Okay? All right. Let's see, what else do we have? Evie Brooklyn says, a fag is a cigarette. Yes. JW Suicide says, taking the piss, you ranker. You bloody asshole. Big Boss says sixes and sevens. King of Faders says, it would be quite presumptuous to say there is channeling. But what do I know? I'm just a translator. And Sarah says she's run out of Merlot. Bolocks! All right. So today we're talking about the Watchtower and the Occult. We've got 16 viewers watching. Thank you for tuning in. All right, I have some more books, but if you're interested in studying about the occult, and I'm not saying that you need to become an occult member, all right? I mean, occult practitioner, but nonetheless, I think anyone who wants to dispel some of the myths and some of the ignorance around the occult, mean evil. If you Google the occult or look it up in your dictionary, it means hidden or occluded. Occult, occlusion, right? Modern Magic by Donald Michael Kraig, A Garden of Pomegranates by Israel Regardie. This is one of my favorite authors, Israel Regardie. He has a lot of interesting books. I'm going to warn you that this is really meaty, rich information. And the first time I looked at any of this, I didn't know what the hell any of this meant. I was like, I know it's English, but that's where it ends, because this is all Greek to me. And I thought this was crazy, this stuff. What? How does this match with this? But I think after my third year, years in, I began to really understand things a little bit better. Okay. So you see, I have another book here. Yeah, here we go. I just ordered this and it just came in the mail, so let me take it out of the packaging here. All right, this one is the updated 7th edition. Author is Israel Regardie, and it's called The Golden Dawn, the original count of the teachings, rites, and ceremonies of the Hermetic Order. Okay, 7th edition, revised and corrected by John Michael Greer, prefaced by Chick Cicero and Sandra Tabitha Cicero. All right, so this is a good research reference book because, number one, it's going to lay out real, true, occult, magical, ritual construction. Okay, and there you're also going to have, oh wow, you're going to learn about tarot cards in here. You're going to learn about astrology. Wow, so many different things. Scrying, tattvas. Oh, by the way, Hindu tattvas. I have a deck of Hindu tattva cards, and I can't tell you how important those things have been for me as a learning and memory aid for just simply studying secular books and things for work training classes or just to enrich my own education in a certain area. The even tarot cards, I have used them as mnemonic in test taking, which really is a great thing. Like I have a tarot card, the Magician tarot card, and what I do is I'll tag key pieces of information to certain items in the tarot card on the image. Like my Magician tarot card has a magician that has a sword, and it has and some other things. So each of those items I will tag specific information to, has some kind of meaning to that. And so once I'm in the stage where I need to take the test, or I need to be able to access the information quickly, I simply recall the tarot card image in my mind. Boom. It triggers and activates. And the cool thing is the way that your brain works is that you can have a touchstone trigger. Stone trigger. And what that means is once that thing is triggered, it sets off a domino effect of other things to be triggered. And I got that word touchstone from Shapiro, PhD. She is I think she's a counselor, big mental health person, and she is the one that EMDR, eye movement desensitization, EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. Yeah. Okay. So basically, EMDR is a really, really great advanced form of mental health therapy. A lot of talking. You don't have to relive traumas. And you don't have to go to counseling for years. Basically, through bilateral stimulation, whether it's eyes back and forth or pulsating soft pulses hitting your hand through EMDR devices, now able to interrupt the process of a specific trauma and take the emotional charge off of it to where it becomes a running narrative instead of a trauma that you relive that keeps flashing over and over in the back of your mind. So a trauma, EMDR is you don't have to EMDR every single trauma. You EMDR what you call a touchstone memory. Memory is like a tree. It has all these branches going to other traumas that you have linked up consciously and subconsciously to that main touchstone trauma or event. Okay, so EMDRing one major touchstone memory, you now by default have reprocessed ancillary ones around it. But when I went to counseling, I was doing EMDR for some of the abuse that I had gone through. And after one particular session, I went home and, kind of integrated things. And I realized that I had trauma and that I'm still being affected from way back when I was 6 years old when I was hit by a car. And I remember it was very traumatic for me. I was hit by a car twice in my life. And the first time, was that the first time? No, that was actually after the big bad one. Okay, but this particular time when I was hit by a car, I was sent out to go to the store. And I walked, it was quite a little bit far away, and it was already dark, and I'm 6 years old, right? I'm unsupervised. I'm just by myself walking. She sent me to the store. She gave me the money, and back then we had 5 marks, Deutschmarks, and it was a coin. It's one coin. And I remember I was trying to cross the street, right across to the marketplace there, the is what it's called, HL. And all these cars were everywhere, and I remember just dashing, just panicked and tried to dash across the street, and I got hit. And wow, yeah, that was pretty scary. I was hit by that car, and I remember open as I was hit, and I all I remember was like the car's headlights were swirling all around me, and this huge impact on my body, excruciating pain. And then next thing I know, I'm in the street. People from the store, the shopping store, come running towards me. And I'm not bleeding. Help me up, and I have this white T-shirt, and I I look down and I see a partial tire track. Yeah, and I'm shaking. And I'm scared because I've lost the incubator's money. And I'm looking for my 5 marks. And I keep saying, "Where's my 5 marks? Where's my 5 marks?" And these little old ladies were like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Here's 5 marks." So they went. This one old lady gave me her 5 marks out of her purse. And I didn't want that. I wanted my money that was somewhere on the street, which they were getting me off the street, and I couldn't go money. And the driver had just drove off, just drove away, hit and run. So I walked home. I wasn't bleeding or anything, but I walked home and I told home, and she checked me over. I was just startled, and I had that tire track on the bottom of my shirt, but I didn't have any injury, and that was a miracle. Because the other time when I got hit by a car, I actually had to go to the hospital for a long time and put therapy on me. I couldn't move my arms and my legs for some time, and I remember I was in the hospital for a long, long time. I wanted to go home. I was sad. I was crying every day. I was begging the doctor to let me go home, and he wouldn't. He said, "You're not well yet, and you have to be able to move your arms." So I remember every day I would go to he would come in and he would have me get up. I would gain my strength back, but it was really difficult. I remember my left arm was so happy that I could finally lift my left arm again, but I couldn't control the down part of it. Lift the arm when he'd say, "Okay, let me see what you can do." I would lift the arm, but then the only thing I could do was just let it flop down movement. And I remember begging him to let me go home, and he said, "No, you have to be able to control the down movement before you can go home." And I was so sad and distraught. And I worked extra hard to try and get myself out of that hospital, and I finally did. But I think I spent there about 2 or 3 months. 6 years old too. I was unsupervised. They would send me out to the store. They would have me walk to school on my own. I'd be at home alone. Basically just be my own mom and dad for most of my childhood. So I think that part of the blame is on them. I should have been an adult should have been walking with me. I don't think I would have gotten hit by those cars if I had an adult with me. But that's long ago, and that's my story. So a live chat has to say, 12 viewers. Thank you for tuning in. 411 Big Boss. Woe to the publisher and the slave, for the devil has come down to you. Evie Brooklyn says Ellen White got hit on the head and saw visions. This was born. Ellen White, she looks like she doesn't look white to me. It's interesting that her last name is White, because when I first saw Ellen White, I thought she was possibly mulatto mixed with black, or maybe Aborigine or something like that. She has very ethnic features. She has very her features don't really look Caucasian to me. She looks like she could be mixed with Caucasian, but she doesn't really look white to me. And I've always, and then her last name was White, and I found it extra interesting that she thought of other races other than white as amalgamations, something between animal and human. So she was definitely a racist person. But if you ask me, I mean, doesn't look white at all. So in fact, she looks like an amalgamation to me. But hey. Evie Brooklyn says, "I'm an OG, old grandma." Grandma Evie? I have a friend that's a great grandma. Can you believe that? She was magic. Something Found says, "Oh my God, Bob, this story. I'm so glad you are still here on Earth." Yes, me too. Uh, Those I got hit in 1 year or within a year and a half of each other. I was 6 years old, so I was a little tiny little kid, and that happened kind of back to back. So, whew, yeah, I think I might need to EMDR that a little bit more. But I actually remembered that I had gone through trauma from that accident, from being hit. So, and that was from doing EMDR on where I'll be honest with you, I was going for EMDR on a specific event where I was beaten really, really violently, and the counselor, as soon as I would be okay, you know, but as soon as I opened the door to the counselor's office, flashbacks would come. You know, it would hit me like a truck, and EMDR that, and after that, I realized that there were some other traumatic events, like the being hit by the car, that I needed to work out that I never realized had been causing me trouble and PTSD all these years. So the good thing with EMDR is that it enables you to a traumatic event or experience within 3 90-minute sessions. And if you happen to hook a touchstone memory, then you can process more than just one. You could process several of them at a time. But it's not like a light switch where boom, you come in and then you do the EMDR and you're fixed. After you leave, it takes some processing time, and some people uh, might even have more things surface because of that to be processed. But the cool thing about EMDR is that it takes the negative emotional charge off the event. It helps you process it. The theory behind it is that traumas are stored in the back part of your brain, close to the amygdala, is and where you're in fight or flight survival, and they're stuck there. And that's where we have traumas, and that's where it causes problems in our lives, depression, confusion, conflict, okay, inner conflict. And then if we're not aware, we will project them onto people around us, our spouse, our friends, our XJW community members, and them, having various degrees of awareness will in turn project their unfinished or unprocessed traumas onto you. And it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And you see this in families, you see this in marriages, you see this with neighbors, you see this with coworkers. This is a lot of the problem that is a lot of the things that cause us problems that we're not aware of. So EMDR helps you become more aware and process that in a relatively short amount of time compared to traditional mental health counseling, where you might go for years and years and years, and you're still not really. And EMDR, bilateral stimulation, is one of the parts of EMDR. It's basically moving your eyes back and forth. What it does, it interrupts the flow of your mind, the flow of that trauma pattern when you do the bilateral stimulation. And along with a couple of other steps, it basically takes off the negative charge. It moves the trauma to your frontal cortex, the front part of your brain, where you're able to integrate and process it and have your own insights. Counselor telling you what to do. You don't have to tell the counselor all kinds of details. You simply have to recall the event. Boom, the bilateral stimulation, which oftentimes they'll take their index finger, the facilitator, and will move it from left to right at a specific, and your eyes will follow that. And then after a while, you'll find yourself more and more relaxed. The negative charge will gradually leave you until at the end of the session. A lot of times I didn't even remember what I came in for. It took me a minute, like, huh? I would be asked. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how safe or how calm do you feel now? And I go, oh, I feel pretty good. Probably a. And I could hardly remember, what I came in for a minute, and then I remembered. But now the emotional charge was gone. Um, so you're not going to forget the bad memories. This isn't going to help you forget. You're still going to always remember, but the difference is now it no longer has a hold on you. The emotional charge is gone. You've processed it, and now you're at the point where you've got your own insights on it. So EMDR works very well, but I also use parts of it for I transfer some of that for my learning and research. So bilateral stimulation is used, and EMDR is not just used by mental health people, but it's also used out here, especially in Hollywood, for actors and musicians and entertainers to have better stage performance. People have to deal with performance fright and stage fright, and so EMDR helps you to take that emotional charge off to be able to perform at your maximum peak. Good stuff. All right, let's see what we have in the live chat. Something Found says, wow, this is fascinating stuff, Bob. Sarah Pettigrew says, I'm back, boo. Went for some Merlot. Well, honey, did you bring me a glass, honey? Because I need me some wine too, honey. Evie Brooklyn says, this is breaking my heart, Bob. Poor little boy. Yeah, it was pretty scary back then, and, we all have these things. We all have traumatic events and memories and experiences that could still be nipping away at us that we're not aware of. Sour Blaze Hayes says, what were you born? And is your name really Bob? No, my name is not really Bob, but if I told you my name, you wouldn't believe me. So I'll just tell you it's Bob for now. That's my online name, Bob. It's easier, Bob Smith. People don't really question it, right? I was born in 76, Sour Blaze Hayes. What about you? And people don't believe me on that either. They're like, no way. Way back then. Nigel Rowley says, trauma at a young age sets the brain's fear chemistry. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. 411 Big Boss says, flashbacks, warm nights, almost left behind, suitcase of memories, time after time. Evie Brooklyn says, Bob was a latchkey kid. So was I. You were too? Were your imaginary friends professors like mine and teachers and parents? Imaginary friends. I had to imagine my own mom and dad. And then I remember this medical book. It was just this medical dictionary. For some reason, I fixated on that as a kid on the bookshelf, and grandmother. It was just strange. I know it sounds strange, but that book was, I just imagined it to be like a grandmotherly, uh, you know, and I learned a lot of medical terms over the years. But yeah, let me see. 411 Big Boss says, back in the days when the Joker would ask, ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? And Evie Brooklyn says, love that Joker. All right. So we're talking about the Watchtower and the Occult. How some people are more believable than others. Like I said, I have yet to meet anyone where I have been given substantial, concrete, credible evidence of what they've gone through or what they claim. Okay, that they claim that there's Watchtower channeling and things like that. I'm hopeful though. I tend to think that there is something out there, maybe, and I'm still open to receiving that at some point. But if you're going to get defensive and you're going to try and shut my questions down, or you're going to try and use emotional reactions, you know, that already kills the credibility in my book. Because I want to be able to share this stuff with other people, but I can't just go on face value. I can't just take a face value, you know. So there's that. All right, so let me see. A lot of the there's a lot of scams in the occult. Okay, realize that you have a large propensity for scammers. 98% of them is scammy, and you have a lot of these new age frou-frou frilly crap, you know, where they're buying all of these crystals and they're buying all of these paraphernalia and they're wearing all of these clothes, and you know they have that certain look, and they're speaking the language of the new age groups and those communities, and it's a lot of fluff and crap. Even in the magic circles, you have a lot of fluff and crap, what they call armchair magicians. And these are people that know all kinds of stuff. They can tell you about it all, but they don't practice. You can read and know and talk to people. You can go on forums and chat and tell people things, and they can tell you things. But are you actually doing the practical everyday work? Because that stuff is not easy. It's not easy to do something on a regular basis way and in a very focused way, called the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. And this ritual, the most powerful ones that I have known, completely clear your surroundings of unwanted mental, emotional, and psychic influences. One that helps you to set boundaries mentally, emotionally, spiritually, psychically, and physically. Lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. It takes about a good year to do this ritual physically, with altar, with robe, with tools, okay, every single day, at least once, but optimally 3 times. Of course, you know, that's pretty time consuming, but at least once a day, rain or shine, until you can be at the point where you can do it subtly, mentally, or what we call astrally. But the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, I can't tell you, there's no. Doing that ritual will help you to, first of all, clear influences around you, you know, and you have a lot of that. You have advertisers all the time. We have advertisers bombarding us every single day, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ads to get your attention and your money and your engagement. You have that might not be all that functional, that might be pretty dysfunctional, especially around this time of year, right? Not only do you have the advertisers trying to get your money, but you've got psycho people getting crazy because it's Christmas. You might have even psycho coworkers that start getting crazy, you know, because it's Christmas, or when you're shopping and you've got other people in the store that are psycho crazy, or in traffic, people cut you off or drive crazy now, you know. And this helps you to clear your mental, emotional, psychic influences, flows, and toxicity, negativity, and whatever the case is. Another excellent one is called the middle pillar ritual. And the middle pillar is very, very healing. It is similar to how chakras are, except you're invoking God names, is what they call it. Like you have Eheye, El Shaddai, you have Elohim, okay? And you're vibrating these words. You're not just speaking them, but you're vibrating them throughout your body, and it can become a very, very pleasant, calming, relaxing meditation. And it is a balancing because you're invoking the middle pillar, so you're in the middle of the opposites, and it is a very wonderful meditation technique for conflict resolution, let alone other things. There's a lot of benefits you can get from this, but middle pillar is a really great way for conflict resolution. Of the lesser banishing ritual of the hexagram, and it's similar to the pentagram in the sense that you have the same pattern. You have a pattern. This is what I'm talking about occult. They have, no matter what it's used for, no matter what kind of technique, there is a fourfold pattern. If it's an official occult method, there is a fourfold pattern, and most of the times the rituals are 4 4 4 4, so it's a pattern. Okay, numbers are very important, and there are certain codes that go along with these things, and these codes are they have permutations. So the codes can be either letters or numbers or a combination of. In fact, the letters equal certain numbers, and certain words equal certain numbers. So, for example, like Yud Hey Vav Hey, YHVH, equals 26 in what we call gematria. And you also have the term love that also equals 26, and other terms. So is that there is a correlation between words that have the same number equivalents. And then you get into something called magic squares in math. Magic squares are really, really fascinating because any which way you add up the numbers, they all equal the same number. So if you have let me see if I can put the magic square in here, in this book. The magic squares are really good because you can do all kinds of interesting math tricks with them. Well, magic squares are also used in the occult, especially in astrology. Certain planets equal certain numbers and equal certain magic squares. Yeah, it's really interesting stuff, right? Let me see if I can find the magic squares in this book. I don't think they're in here. Let me see if it has the magic squares in it. I think it does. I want to show you something about the magic squares here. But there's a lot of tricks you can do with math, and I've had some videos where I've shown people a couple of math tricks where you can add large numbers quickly in your head without a piece of paper or a calculator, and it's a lot of fun. But I can't find them in this book either right now. But magic square. Wait a minute now. Oh, I know where that is. Hold on a minute. Let's see. Aha. All right. I had to pull up another book. This is called Self-Initiation into the Golden Dawn Tradition, of study for the solitary magician and the working magical group, by Chick Cicero and Sandra Tabitha Cicero. And let's see. This would be on page. Okay. Where are you? Dang it. For something. I know it's in here, but I can't find it. Right here. All right. So this is on page 379 from in the book Self-Initiation into the Golden Dawn Tradition. It talks about planetary seals. Now, this is working planetary magic and using planetary intelligences to harness their intelligences to work your magical things, or to seek answers, like Saturn when they're doing scientific research. They'll use the energy of Saturn to get more information, maybe information that's not easily available, that's occult as far as the sciences are concerned. Some people will use Jupiter in financial matters. And all of these have specific correspondences. Like Saturn, for example, okay, so this square here is 3 rows across and 3 rows down, okay? And it has, the numbers across are 4, 9, and 2. So if you add 4 plus 9, which is 13, plus 2 is 15. The numbers underneath is 3, 5, 7. 3 plus 5 is 8, plus 7 is 15. Then the last row is 8, 1, 6. 8 plus 1 is 9, plus 6 is 15, all right? Now, diagonally, you can do the same thing. 8, 5, 2 is diagonally from the bottom left corner. So 8 plus 5 plus 2, once again, 15. Then from the top left corner down, 4 plus 5 is 9, plus 6 is 15. You can even add it 4, 3, 8 going down in the first row. 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 8 is 15. So no matter which way you go to add the numbers, they all turn out to equal 15. And that is that planet's number, 15. Number 15. So next to it, you have letters. And in this case, you have the Hebrew letters, because the Hebrew letters, the Hebrew alphabet, has numerical equivalents. Back then, the Hebrew, back in ancient times, they believed that numbers and words were synonymous. And actually, when you go way, way back in time, way, way back before language, before we had language, or archetypes, and actually the deities were numbers. Before we had names for them, those deities or those forces were numbers. So yeah, magic squares, it's a really cool thing, and it's part of magic. A lot of this has mathematical components and ciphers and codes and precise, concrete stuff. It's not fluff or woo-woo, although you do have a large part of creativity involved in this as well, right? All right, so what you got to say? Huh? You want to say something? That's Dev. What you want to say? What kind of Kit Kat are you, honey, Belle? What are you doing, honey? Come here, little Kit Kat. Come here, little Kit Kat. Come here. Where's your little Kit Kat? Look at that. Hold on, say hi to the last cat. Come here, baby. You're not going to kick? All right, fine. This cat just kicked me. All right. Stop being a diva. Stop being a diva. Full of drama. Huh? Yeah? Okay. All right. Evie Brooklyn. Hey, Honeyboo. Bex O'Neill. Hey, Honeyboo. She says she loves you, Debbie. How's your babies doing? This cat over here, he wants attention. He's like, you've been on this live stream too long. Get comfortable here in my recliner. All right, Nigel Rowley says this has its roots in Eastern religious philosophy. Yeah, that's true. Sarah Pettigrew says, you're a hero. Well, thank you very much. Honey babe. Evie Brooklyn says Elohim and El Shaddai reference to God. Jews, yes. Nigel Rowley says the Book of Numbers, Old Testament. Yes, indeed. So you see that right there, Nigel. Numbers are important when it comes to the occult. And also when you look the Bible, like you mentioned, the Book of Numbers, you see that. Also in the Book of Revelation, you see numbers that have specific meanings. So yeah, Today we're talking about Watchtower the Occult. We've got 11 people watching. What do you guys think? What do you all think? Do you think that some of this stuff has some relevance to it? Do you believe some of these people like that, like Veronica Houston on 6 Screens? Do you believe that? You know, do you feel like she might be telling that is true, or are you skeptical? Do you, excuse me, do you think it's BS? What people are saying. What are your thoughts? You can leave them in the comments. You can leave them in the live chat. But it's something to think about. I'm always the kind of person that likes to think that there could be something to a lot of this, but also, you know, there is a potential for people to maybe exploit that. You know, so I personally, the at least the founder, I think the founder might have wanted to be a Mason, and but I don't know if he was accepted by the Mason community, you know, but he could be, you know, he could have been a Mason. I know that Masons, you know, they don't limit, like you can be Catholic, you can be Buddhist, and the Mason thing is separate. It's separate from your religion. Some philosophical things in the Mason. When you say Mason, you know, there's different groups and communities of Masons that don't all recognize each other as true Masons. You have with Knights Templar, you have especially with the Rosicrucians. I mean, there's so many Rosicrucian organizations that swear up and down they're the only true Rosicrucians, and the rest of them are all false. Excuse me. So you also have that going on. You know, you can't just say Freemasonry, because if you blanket that, there's going to be some of them that won't fall under that category. But says, I would not be surprised if they were into this shit. Hi guys, grandson just woke up. Love, Bob, and to all hugs. Love you too, and thanks for stopping by. Your grandson have a good rest of the weekend there, and happy holidays. SWA USA says, do you know how old is Veronica? Is I didn't get to ask her that, but I think she's well into her adult years. It says triangles. Yeah, triangles too. The image of a triangle is really, really powerful if you think about it. And you'll see triangles everywhere. You know, you see in business logos, in just about everywhere you look at the triangle, the number 3, symbolically and archetypically, that this is a symbol of authority. And I want to explain to you why. So in the ancient times, first began to count, they used their fingers, 10 or 0 through 9, okay? And I told you before, each number was a deity. The deities, or the forces of nature, or forces around us, both internal and external. So you had 0, and you had, when you look at the 0 in your mind's eye, there's no beginning or end. Alpha and Omega, right? There's no beginning or end. So 0 was looked at as the source of everything. Nothing. How can that be? Well, actually, it is no thing head around, so therefore it may as well be nothing to us, because our comprehension doesn't reach that high to be able to encompass 0. For from there, a point was formed, a dimensionless point of concentration of energy and attention. That's one. And then from it wanted to see itself, or it reflected itself. So the meaning and is one of reflection or dual opposites, because now this was a copy. It was not the original point, it was a copy of it. True or not true. Life, death, up, down. You had duality, the principle of duality. Now, okay, so you have the principle of duality. You have the polar opposites here. 3, third view, which rose above the two opposites, like you're rising above your condition or your circumstance to see a broader perspective, a broader picture, a higher perspective, you see. And when you look at some of the Christian artwork at the halos, because the only the supreme God within the Christian philosophy in the Christian sector, only the supreme Lord will halo. Google images triangle halo, and you're going to see that the circular ones, and some of the saints have the circular ones, and whomever. But when you see a triangle halo behind that image's head, that image represents the supreme deity. So numbers are still interweaved and intertwined into our everyday life, whether we want to realize it or not. The planets are too. And remember, I told you about the magic squares earlier. Well, think about the days of the week. Monday, Moon Day. Tuesday, Wednesday, Woden's Day, which is Jupiter. Saturday, Saturn. Sunday, the sun. You see, we're living this. We're living occult practices every day, and we don't question them. No one questions the date. Today is December 17th, 2017. If I were to say I don't believe that, people would think I'm crazy. But honestly, it's a calendar that we've created. Time is relative, but none of us questions it. We don't dare to question it. It affects your perception, and it affects you from the smallest to the biggest. So, yeah. Beck says her phone is on charge. Sarah Pettigrew says, clever Bob. Yep. So, yeah, I bit about occult today because I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding about it. I think a lot of people are maybe using it in a paranoid way or maybe in a sensational way. And honestly, 3 is the magic number. Yes, yes. Also, check this out. Anytime you want to memorize something, 3 times in threes. So let's say you want to memorize someone's name. Best ways to do that is to repeat it to yourself at least 3 times in threes. So 3 times 3, which is 9. Another thing you can do is you can tap your wrist with your finger in rhythm. Bob Smith, Bob Smith, Bob Smith, Bob Smith, Bob Smith, Bob Smith. Your wrist or you tap your hand somewhere. What that does is you're anchoring that piece of information implicitly to your body with that rhythmic tap. Anchoring in neurolinguistic programming. Terms now for it, but back in the day it was called rituals, because you have physical body movements with and the vibratory words of the God names, different things. So you basically have and I don't want to call it science, but it is a formula that is very, very potent psychologically. Is psychology. A lot of this is, there's some math. There's a lot of math. There's a lot of preciseness, and it's a good combination of both creativity and science, of art and science. There's real science that you're going to need to know and use, a lot of art. The main thing with all of this is your imagination. And as I've said in the live streams, it is your imagination that groups and people. And if you are ignorant of certain things, vulnerable to being hijacked. And you can be hijacked by Illuminati people, quote unquote, as easy as you can be hijacked by another XJW. A lot of the dramas that I've seen, a lot of the fights require an immense amount of imagination and creativity. And you will see people's creativity flourish when they are in the midst of drama and fights. At the end of the day, nation that has been captured by someone, and that's what Watchtower does. They hijack your imagination. That is the biggest thing. Imagination to believe in Armageddon. I've never seen no Armageddon, and there hasn't been an Armageddon got here. They've been talking about the end of the world years, and the world is still here. But it takes imagination for you, afraid of it, thinking that it's here any minute now. Nigel Rowley in the live chat says, dog, Bob. Yeah, you know, when the bell is rung, boom, they start salivating. And see, we all have these learned responses that we might be aware of and not aware of. And that's the thing. A lot of these are click and whir, you know, responses that can be used, but they can also be exploited by other people that might study you and your weaknesses and your vulnerabilities a little bit better than you do. So you have that as well. Bex O'Neill says Bob then returns to Oz. Oh yeah. So Modern Magic, Donald Michael Kraig, if you're interested. These are very meaty books, by the way. They're huge reference books, okay? Self-Initiation into the Golden Dawn Tradition. Chick Cicero, a complete curriculum of study for both the solitary magician and the working magical group. Some of the things in the back here, it says, pursue your own chosen spiritual path, clear instruction, and jargon-free language. No need for group membership or prohibitive expense. Lessons don't require familiarity with magic traditions. Progress assuredly. Structured and explanatory lessons. Rituals empowered with the fundamentals of magic. Understand and use practical high magic. Okay, so even if you're not wanting to do magic, this is a really great resource, a reference book. If you are interested in pursuing it, I would advise you to start with Modern Magic, Kraig. He has 12 lessons in there, and you can go through each lesson within a month. Actually, I went through this, and I'm still going through this book years later. I a lot longer. I wanted to really integrate things and really understand. So you have A Garden of Pomegranates by Israel Regardie, Chick Cicero, and Sandra Tabitha. Oh no, this was annotated. This is actually by Israel Regardie, but they did do an annotation, and I think this is a really excellent book. You're going to learn about, and these books don't call it mental models, but basically, excuse me, you're going to start with fundamentals of 1 through 10, the numbers. And from there, you're going to be transposing it onto something called the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. And if you are looking at your Christmas tree right now in your living room, that is a physical representation of the idea of a Kabbalistic tree of life. And all major cultures have a tree of life of sorts. The lights on your tree represent the senses of awareness. And in Magick, there are 22 pathways that are on the Kabbalistic tree of life. And this Kabbalistic tree of life is within you, and you are within it. And everything in reality, every piece of info, every piece of experience can be cataloged according to this Kabbalistic tree of life. So, you to process information a lot more efficiently. Information. It also helps you to adapt a lot better. And remember, yesterday we talked about organizations and how species survive and how organizations continue to survive through adaptation, the ability to adapt. And that is a crucial thing more than ever because we have change on a daily basis, major disruptive changes all around us. If you're having a hard time adapting and keeping up, then this could be a tool to help you with that. There's a lot to it, though. So those are the 3 books. I pull out another one, but I think you're going to be just fine starting with these. Let me see. I also have, yeah, I'll throw this one in here too. The Middle Pillar, Between Mind and Magic by Israel Regardie. I know I've got like 3 Israel Regardie books, but I promise you I've got different authors too. But this one here, The Middle Pillar, is an excellent book if you're into psychology. And a deep look into the psychological techniques that are used in Magick. And this guy was Israel Regardie, I think he was a psychologist, or some kind of therapist. So part 1 here of The Middle Pillar, a correlation of the principles of analytic psychology and the elementary techniques of magic. So you're going to be able to decipher the patterns of the occult, a logical point of view, and understand it a lot better. And understanding this is going to help you to safeguard from quote unquote demon attack, okay, that a lot of these people get so paranoid on, because much more solid foundation psychologically. Between Mind and Magic, a further analysis of the relationship between psychology and magic. And you have a regression that really helps. Let me see if I can turn to it. But anyway, basically the regression exercise has you go back into your mind, right? And right before a traumatic event happened, you stop right before it happens, and then in your minds, you rewind it like a videotape. You rewind backwards, and then you fast forward again right up until the event happens, and you do that several times. Focused meditation exercise to where once again that charge is taken off, and that's called the regression exercise. I'm trying to find it where it is. But this book also has the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram in here. It also has the Middle Pillar. This is the great stuff. This book has helped me a lot. It helps you to have a lot of self-awareness. It talks about confronting the shadow, page 113. It says here, everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. If an inferiority is conscious, one always has a chance to correct it. other interests so that it is continually subjected to modifications. But if it is repressed in consciousness, it never gets corrected. Otherwise, we are constantly having to suppress one attribute or another. Thus, the shadow can never completely be assimilated into consciousness. However, it is essential that the most conspicuous aspects of the shadow be raised to consciousness. Instead of rejecting the shadow, the ego will be invigorated by it. If the shadow is not reckoned with, it runs the risk of becoming a vast, dark, forgotten expanse. Inner creativity from being fully available to the conscious mind. This is why some people strive with Herculean strain to keep a tight lid on their shadows, concealing their private demons with a thin veneer of moral perfection. Oh, honey, that ain't true. The spiritual fortress that they construct around themselves is nothing more than a synthetic buttress held in place by force and ever in danger of structural failure should the wind change direction. The shadow is as little of a remedy as beheading would be for a headache. And this is probably why a lot of people start freaking out and calling the occult demons and demonic, and they claim that they've had demonic possession because they dabbled in it or practiced it. It's probably this right here. Not being ready to confront the shadow. Because these books are just ink and paper. It's just printed ink on paper. Tarot cards is nothing but paper. Crystal balls are nothing but crystal glass. Okay? So if you're saying these things are demonic and they bring Satan, the devil, and all of that, this is just paper and ink that you might need to look at. All right. Sarah Pettigrew says, hey, Boo, do you know Franz Barton's work? No, who is that? Let me Google that. Franz Barton. Okay, let me take a look at that. Oops. I'm going to click something off. Okay, Franz Barton. A Czech occultist and student and teacher of Hermetics. Oh, interesting. I want to check him out. Initiation into Hermetics, the Path of the True Adept. Website dedicated to true Hermetic initiation, promoting the books, Initiation into Hermetics, Practice of Magical Evocation, and the Key to the True. Ah, okay. That's a, thanks for letting me know about that. Let me see. A Barton Companion, practical companion for the student of Franz Barton's Systems of Hermetic Initiation. Okay, so he's had system there. Okay. I want to check that out. That looks very interesting here. The Key to the True Kabbalah. Okay. I'm gonna my library. Neil says you have to banish your own demons before you can fight against others. And Sarah Pettigrew says you have to love and know yourself. That's very true. So going back to the occult, we've got 10 people watching. I want to thank you for tuning in. The Watchtower and the occult, and are there ties? Did the original founder, was he a Mason? Was he an occultist? And further, we have people in our community claiming various things, such as that they were used as children to channel, and that they were used in occult practices. And we are talking about dispelling some of the myths and some of the stigma and the ignorance around it. History, physics, art, all of these started off as magic. Before we separated these things into different categories and subjects and disciplines of the occult and magic many, many aeons ago. including science. Astronomy has its roots in astrology. So I think that out of the XJW community, they're afraid of this stuff naturally. So, and honestly, when I practiced my cleansing rituals, um, I was very afraid. I was very, very afraid. And even now, sometimes, the energy there's a huge presence, and it can be a little bit overwhelming, to expand that huge. It's you. It's not any, it's nothing else. It's you. It's all you. And sometimes things are brought to the surface that might be a little with right now, but you got to take care of business. And that's where people, I think, get in trouble, is they start projecting. And so then they say it's the tarot cards doing it, or you know Jehovah's Witnesses, when they go to a yard sale and they think something's demonized, it's the table, it's demonized, or it's that bag that we bought at the garage sale that must be full of demons. And it's really, no, you need to work out, and you're projecting it onto that item you bought at the yard sale. Yeah, Bex O'Neill, it is projection. I guys have heard this, where um, somebody claimed, holy shit, what the hell? Okay, there's a chopper that just flew right over. It's weird. All right, so I was gonna say that a lot of people will get into trouble. And if you are interested in knowing more about this, I would heavily advise you to seek a qualified counselor. Not because of anything wrong or bad, but we all have things that we repress and suppress. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad traumatic childhood. Not everyone has gone through these things, but it could be something like you fell off your bike and that was pretty traumatic. Maybe you forgot about it, but somewhere down the line, the way you processed it, it is still trouble in your life. Or you could have been bullied at school in first grade, or maybe you have red hair and people have always picked on you for the red hair, and you want to be able to be free of that drama and that self-consciousness about your hair. Oh, excuse me. There's varying degrees of things. Even as adults, we get traumatized. If your boss yells at you, that can be traumatic. So there's something to work on. I think everyday life is pretty traumatic sometimes. So, it's nothing wrong with going to a counselor. In fact, my personal belief is, I don't care who you are, I don't care how healthy you are mentally. I think everyone should go to a qualified mental health. The same way people should go to the gym. You exercise and train your body, and then leave your mind out. In having fitness physically, although I still need a lot of work physically on that, um, but as well as mentally and emotionally and spiritually too. But I'm not going to get into spiritual things with people, because that's a lot that's very sacred, and it is not my place to, I don't get into that with people, because the next thing you know, they're going to get into religion, and those topics, they just don't interest me, and they are controversial, and there's a lot of other people that are willing to discuss with you about that. All right, Bex O'Neill, projection. Sarah Pettigrew says ignorance, drugs, stress, ginger nut. uh, Bex O'Neill says, I go to my cat. True story. Yeah, I mean, you can learn a lot from cats. Cats are wonderful, wonderful people. said people. Well, cats are wonderful, wonderful people, and they're very wise animals. Something found says mind, body, and spirit is all connected. Yes. So is a big thing in my world. I'm all for mental health counseling. Always have been. Always have been. And, I would secretly read psychology and sociology books. And even though at the hall they said that these were worldly people and wicked people, I still never believed. And secretly, I would read different things and was left to myself a lot. I could have all kinds of books hide that nobody ever knew about. You know. Oh boy. I tell you this now. I'm gonna I gotta go in a few, but I will say this. When I was still living with the incubator and the step person. They were both Jehovah's Witnesses, very devout. They snuck in these hypnosis books, and it was a combination of self-help. I had some Tony Robbins in there, and hypnosis, and then I bought this book on tarot cards, and I bought some tarot cards. And 19? No, I think I was. Yeah, yes. I think I was 19. Yeah, or was it 20? In any case, I remember going through these tapes and these books, have these weird experiences, weird subtle feelings, and then noises I would hear, or different little things that 100% say now something's up. But I knew something was up, and I remember going online to the chats, MIRC, Internet Relay Chat, and I would go into the psychic and get different people to do psychic readings on me. And most of them was BS. They'd just give me word salads and vague stuff, and stuff that could be applied to anybody. A couple of times, someone, clearly it wasn't fluff. I had asked them about, I wanted to know who my grandmother was. And they asked me my date of birth and my first name, and they started doing the reading. And that's all I gave them, and my date of birth, and I wanted to know. That was my. And so information, and like I said, at first it was kind of vague, or could be applied to anybody. But then she said, "Your real grandmother," and then she said she didn't understand why that came out, and she said the readings aren't all accurate. And I said, "Wait a minute, keep going." And she said, "Okay." And she told me that Elizabeth was my real grandmother, loved me, and I thanked her for the reading. Now, she did not know besides my first name, but grandmother, her name was Elizabeth. She was not my maternal biological grandmother, but she was an adoptive. She adopted me. And that freaked me out. I got really scared. I was still going to the Kingdom Hall. Scared because obviously this person wasn't faking. There was no way she could have known. And she herself didn't understand why all of a sudden she said, "Elizabeth is your real grandmother. She loves you." Something found says, "Oh my God, I was always on MIRC too, but trivia stuff and file share mostly. The good old days." Oh yeah, did you download MP3s and movies? Where you had to? Oh my goodness. Oh man, I used to download songs and movies, and it used to take. I remember the Nutty Professor, when the Nutty Professor came out way back. I sat in MIRC, I kid you not, for 4 days. For some reason, I got booted off of the, and I only had two people ahead of me, and I had already spent 3 days. 3 days, and I really, really, I mean, this was my movie. I was gonna watch Nutty Professor. Booted off the server and had to start all over again. So it almost took a week till I got it, but I got it. But yeah, remember we would have to type these codes. It was like an exclamation mark and then the name or the title of what you wanted. This PM that says you're number 56 in line. Yep, before Napster. Yeah. When Napster came out, I was like, yes, finally I can stop sitting here forever and a day for each freaking song. Yeah, Napster was cool. I was downloading the heck off of Napster. But it took a long time too. It didn't take days anymore, but it took hours, several hours. Um, by the time Napster got shut down, we had LimeWire and New Share, GNU Share, and Bear Share, and all these knockoffs off of Napster. Napster getting sued and shut down didn't do a dang thing. Don't trouble anything you're not ready for. Yeah, that's true, Sarah Pettigrew. But I'll tell you, this stuff, my practices here have really helped me and to balance me. And I advise anyone. It's not for everyone, and I don't recommend it for everyone. You have to be pretty dang bold. You have to have some major courage to face yourself because this is all going to bring you out to you. And we all have shadow parts and scary parts of ourselves. There we all have wonderful, beautiful things about ourselves. We also have scary things that we really don't want about ourselves. So yeah. Mount Floyd, did you leave? I missed Mount Floyd. I missed Mount Floyd. I was going to tell him good night. All right, we have 9 viewers watching. We're talking about Watchtower and the Occult, and we've just covered some books. We have Sarah Pettigrew's recommendation for Franz Bardon, B as in boy, A-R-D as in David, O-N as in Nathan. Franz, F-Z, Franz Bardon. And some of his books on Amazon include a Bardon Companion, a practical companion for the student of Bardon's System of Hermetic Initiation. I don't know this author. I haven't read any of it yet, but this is a recommendation from Sarah Pettigrew. Let's see. What else do we have on Bardon? Let's look it up. He has a lot of good ratings too. He has the practice of magical evocation. He also has a book called The Key to the True Kabbalah. Oh, that's in Spanish. Oh, he's got his stuff translated in German too. Der Weg zum wahren Adepten. Okay, that's cool stuff. All right, so we got that. We've got Isra Bagardi, The Middle Pillar, The Balance Between Mind and Magic. We have A Garden of Pomegranates, Scrying on the Tree of Life, Isra Bagardi. We have Modern Magic by Donald Michael Kraig. And we have Self-Initiation into the Golden Dawn Tradition by Tabitha Cicero. Okay, so this will get you started if you're interested. If you are an advanced occultist, if you are a magic practitioner, and you already know and have these books, then I recommend oh, hold on a minute. I gotta go to my other closet. I recommend had to get this book out from my hallway closet. This is a special book. It's very, very hard to get. So for the advanced folks, I recommend Dr. John Mumford, Magical Tattwas, A Complete System for Self-Development. Now, I realize this book is very, very difficult to get. If you're anybody in the occult community, you're an advanced practitioner, you know that this book is very, very difficult to get. If you want a copy of this book, me at Operation Ultra 2015 gmail.com, subject line, and I will give you a link, and you'll simply, it's I think it might be like $7 or $8 just for the printing. Okay, so I recommend that. Another one I recommend for the advanced Solomon the King, Clavicula Solomonis, and translated and edited from manuscripts in the British Museum by S. Liddell McGregor Mathers. Okay, I don't the Goetia, I don't know anything about it. I don't have any kind of experience with it, but this one's a good one. Lastly, The Complete Magician's Table by Stephen Skinner. This is a huge valuable reference, and it's not just for magicians, but it's even for researchers, historical researchers. Okay, and you're going to have all the correspondences. You're going to see all the golden thread running through all systems, including the zodiac. You have the letters and alphabets and numerical value of gematria and gematria. You've got the Kabbalah. You've got angels. You've got geomancy, natural magic. You've got orders and grades and officers of different groups. Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, Feng Shui, Chinese Taoism, Vedic and Hindu, I Ching, Western symbolism, sacred geometry, zones of the mind and body and soul, timelines. And okay, so check this out. Correspondences not only form the basis of communication, but they are also the basis of magic. Of correspondences here that you can quickly reference. There is a whole stratum of thought which relates to emblems, colors, images, herbs, and perfumes, which was much more accessible to ancient man and was still part of thinking, but which no longer forms a part of the way we think at a conscious level. These correspondences are only vaguely guessed at by modern psychologists like Jung, who see the tip of the iceberg but cannot easily trace its roots. These roots are not always obvious. Part of the subconscious memories or egregore of our culture. When you're studying this, you're going to go deeper in past your personal psychology into psychology of humankind, and that will transcend cultures of all mankind. You see, this is a deeper, this is occult. This is stuff you don't see in the everyday information stream, but it's not out of your reach. All you have to do is look for it and get it. Page 16 on of the Complete Magician's Tables by Stephen Skinner, it says, correspondences were used to store vast quantities of information, feats of memory which are just not possible for the modern man who uses written and electronic word to store his knowledge. Knowledge of these correspondences can help us understand the structure of thought, memory, as well as the techniques of magic. So all of this is what I'm giving you. It's not just magic, but the structure of thought and the nature of memory. So this can help you in all kinds of areas. These correspondences can even be used to not just to describe it. Correspondences such as this is therefore basic to communication between human beings, communication with one's subconscious, and even communication with other non-human entities. Excuse me. I thought there was something else. I thought there was something else I had in here for you, but okay. Let me not get lost. I'll be here all day with this. But those are the books for the advanced folks, or if you're just interested in books, period, you can get these too. We are talking about the occult. We've got 8 viewers watching. We have another day in the chat. How you doing? Welcome to the chat. Sarah Pettigrew says, I've been researching it all since I left 2016. She says, magic, life, religion, anything, history, science, astrology. Yep. Something Found says, Bob, I said before that we all practice the occult in definition, while in Watchtower our beliefs were hidden from the worldly people, the masses. Yes, that is so true. That is so true. In a sense, we all had to practice occult, right? Because we didn't tell people they had to go in field service if they were becoming one of us. Tell people when they say, oh, well, you guys don't celebrate Christmas. I want to be able to still celebrate Christmas. What do we tell them? Oh, you don't have to stop celebrating Christmas. Knowing damn well they're going to have to stop celebrating Christmas if they become a J-Dog. Excuse me. Bex O'Neill says, I would love to unlock the brain, do a Lucy. You mean a Lucy in the sky? Like LSD? In the sky. All right, so covered everything. Like I said, I'm open to learning more. If somebody has claims of having been a channeler for the Watchtower or some kind of occult involvement within the Watchtower, I'm open to listening to that if it's true. But so far, I haven't really been convinced. I haven't been convinced. The people that I've talked with the exception of one, they just have not been convincing at all. Not in the least bit. Been a lot of vague stuff, and then getting defensive if I ask questions and don't readily believe. And I think that's part emotional manipulation, and they're afraid of anger, of getting other people angry, or upset, and especially with the elder dynamic, people don't want to upset anyone, or they get afraid to really occasion or anything like that. And a lot of them look to what other people around them are doing, so if other people don't see that there's something wrong, then they're not going to say anything. And you have that status quo syndrome going. You also have social influence. People you like believe a certain way, so you tend to sway in their direction because you like them. And you have a lot of that going on. You have various things, but nonetheless, I think I'm about done. Everyone tuning in, Sarah Pettigrew, Nigel Rowley, Another Day, Something Found, Mott Floyd, Bex O'Neill, one big Boss, Evie Brooklyn. Let me see, who else was in here? Faders, JW Suicides, JW Crisis, My Mango Bango. Mango Bango, that's a funny name. Did this guy have Kingdom Heart Crashes? Mango Bango. I want to check because I actually love watching people go to the carts, like Down with the Tower and Zeb Freestone. And I don't see Mango Bango, but if someone can post his link in the comments, his or her channel, I would love to check Mango Bango out. And if anybody else has a channel that they want me to check out, feel free to post that on the link as well. All right, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Sarah Pettigrew, Something Found says, thank you for sharing this video. Have a great night, guys. And Bex O'Neill says, be good, Dev. Yes, he is sleeping right here next to me. Yeah, love you, Debbie, bud. Yeah, my Debbie. All right, good night, everyone. Love you, honey bear. Oh, wait. Here we go.